Does your child have a reading challenge, or are they just a little slower on the uptake? What are some of the red flags that you might see if your child is really struggling with reading? The number one thing I look for is that refusal to read. They just don't want to sit down with the book. They really don't want to do it. Second of all, maybe they sit down with the book and they can read most of the words, and the words they can't, they're just guessing. They have no idea how to figure out how to break it down to figure out what that word is. Another one is that their spelling is not quite where it should be. Maybe they can read, but then what happens is when they go to spell the words, the way that they spell them doesn't seem to make sense. These are all red flags that something didn't quite get wired in the way that they learn to read. Why would I say spelling? Well, spelling is a foundational skill that requires auditory processing, the ability to hear every sound in the word. If you can't hear each of the sounds in the word, you can't spell the word. But oftentimes you might think, well, my child can read, why can't they spell? Well, many kids learn to read through memorization. They have good long-term memory, so they can memorize those words. And oftentimes these kiddos get through all the way through third grade before all of a sudden they have a reading struggle. And why is that? Because they've memorized the words, and you get to a point where you can't memorize all the words. And so now you're getting to words they can't memorize, but they don't have the skills to break it down. So can you look at a CH and know if it's a k or a ch sound based upon where it is in the word? Can you look at an OW or an AW and know whether it's an ow or an aw? Do you know how to actually sound out those individual parts of the word? And if you don't have that skill, when you get to a word that might be 4 syllables and 10 letters, it becomes overwhelming. And so what the child just does is guess. So if you have a child who's guessing, avoiding, can't spell, maybe even struggling with that comprehension because they're working so hard on figuring out what the words are, it's an indication that there might be a little bit more than just a struggle or catching up to read.